My mum thinks my sister is entitled to my grandparents' will. So this is a generally long story, dating back about 8 or 9 years ago from the beginning until now. I'll throw in a bit of context here to help you understand the situation a little bit better. My grandparents on my father's side of the family are really well off in wealth. They practically own all of the lands within a small city environment that was inherited from my grandfather's father before him, and split between himself and his 2 siblings. They do business in renting out the land to companies, farmers, and homeowners. From my understanding, this has brought my grandfather's life worth up to roughly about $2.8 billion within his lifespan before he passed away. My grandparents encourage a lifestyle where we need to make our own way within the world. But they are willing to help out with certain expenses such as school funds, rent, home ownership, and sometimes even smaller things like vet bills, shopping, etc. Now we can get onto the story. So about roughly 9 years ago now, my sister had graduated from high school and had earned a 2-year scholarship to her dream college, but couldn't afford much more than that, and wouldn't be able to buy everything she had needed for those 2 years. Our grandparents had graciously decided to help her out with the funding. They paid for her dorm room, her transportation fees, her books, her food tickets, and everything else she would need for the 4 years or so that she attended, even granting her extra money for anything else she might want to do on the sideline, or anything she might need for school. This included monthly paychecks for gas and extra food. So my mom gave her an old car. My grandparents paid for everything else she'd need, and she was off for her college experience. Throughout her 4 or so years of college, my sister changed her major 3 times, failed to graduate because of constantly changing her classes, and spent a good majority of her money on partying and hauling her friends around, taking everyone out to expensive restaurants, and eating out often. There was a time during her years attending college where my grandparents had overpaid. They forgot they had paid for the year's dorm and classes already, and sent in a double payment, where the school decided to refund their money, but sent it to my sister instead of back to them. She never bothered to ask about where it came from, or who it belonged to. She just decided to waste the extra $12,000 that she got back on partying and eating out more often than she had before. Because more money, right? This greatly upset our grandparents, because she had stolen their money without even bothering to ask them about it to begin with, as she was supposed to return it to them. This was the first mistake she had made with them. By the end of her last year, she was supposed to graduate, still had a ceremony, but didn't graduate any specific class, job choice. Everyone decided to join together to help her celebrate her time and effort in school. We're talking around maybe 20 people who flew in from all across the country to join her. This included great aunts, great uncles, cousins, our aunt, our dad, and stepmom, stepmom's grandcrotch goblins, and finally, our grandparents themselves. It's likely, although not specifically known of, that our grandparents has paid for everyone else's travel expenses, including plane tickets, hotel rooms, and more. Our grandpa was in very poor health at that time already. He never traveled because it was hard on him, strapped to an oxygen tank, and wheelchair-bound at the time. For them, it had been roughly a 9-hour drive to her college, which was located high up in the mountains, which only made it harder for our granddad to be there. So everyone had gathered together from far and wide to help celebrate her achievements and congratulate her personally. But my sister was in a pissy mood from the very beginning, and conveniently decided to have a mental breakdown, which was basically her just throwing a tantrum. And she basically, in short words, decided to just say fuck it. She blew everyone else off and avoided them like the plague. She talked to our dad and stepmom, and that was it. She refused to talk to our grandparents and ignored everyone else who had shown up before leaving the campus. I spent time with our grandparents and our other relatives in her stead, because holy hell was that rude. Even I hate her for that. And then I left with her mom to help her finish packing up her dorm room so she could move back down to the city, which, by the way, she didn't help us. She just sat there huffing and being pissy the entire time we hauled everything out to her car. So we finished, and we got a phone call from our grandma, Nani, who said that we all needed to meet up with them in XX place because they had all gathered together at the hotel they were staying at to throw a very expensive party to celebrate with her. But my sister decided to ignore them and went to visit Dad instead at his hotel shortly before making a straight drive back down into the city. This was her second mistake, which greatly pissed off our grandparents and relatives. She didn't give a fuck. So a few years passed by. My sister never really cared nor tried to keep contact with our grandparents, save for the one time she approached them to show off her boyfriend. And Nani had torn into her over how disrespectful and rude she had been, to which my mother defended my sister, and lied about the money she stole had been her own. And eventually in October of 2017, our grandfather started ailing beyond a point of returning. His body was starting to fail, and he was getting ready to pass on. We had to force my sister to join us to visit him one last time before he passed. He had passed away on the 17th. He, deliberately we believe, cut his oxygen supply off, and let himself go after all their family and friends had gotten to say goodbye for the last time. So now it was just Nani. And I swear, every time I visited her, which was often after he first had passed, she was going off about my sister stealing from them, and being disrespectful, and how Mum was trying to cover for her. And I knew. I mean, it wasn't anything new to me. My mom would always defend my sister's every action, good or bad, but I did eventually try to gently tell her to let it go. That it wasn't worth clinging on to because it'd only stress her out and make her unhappy and miserable if she did. She didn't want to let it go. And I doubt it was over the money in general. I believe it was more because of her disrespectful attitude and coldness towards them. Granddaddy had a will written out that granted all of us, even my sister at first, roughly $150,000 to $280,000 in a trust fund that would continue to grow over the years, but wouldn't be accessible to us until after Nani died. And well, I guess 3 years later she still hasn't been able to let that incident go. Because we just got a letter in the mail from the lawyer about a week ago saying that Nani removed my sister from the will. I don't blame her for it. My sister is a real piece of work. She's money hungry, spoiled, just bad in general. She's our mom's little angel, so she gets away with everything and never thinks or cares about anything she does. My mom got so angry about that letter though, that she actually threatened to sue my grandma for removing my sister off of the will. She went as far as to call my grandmother to bitch about it, but chickened out of going off on her because Nani's just one of those people you don't want to piss off. She instead demanded that I share my portion of the will with my sister. And I told her no. She's an idiot. My sister deserved this, and I'll never see it as anything otherwise. She only ever visited for money. She never bothered to speak to them otherwise either. Whether they accepted her warmly or not didn't matter. She was extremely rude, and never felt any remorse for her actions towards them, or anyone else in the family. I don't blame her for removing my sister. As of now, it's her money, and her right to remove my sister if she feels it's necessary to do so. My mum is an idiot for wanting to take her into court over it. My mum has never seen a problem with how disrespectful and rude my sister had been, and continues to be, and that's exactly why she was removed. My grandma says Granddaddy did it before he passed. Whether that's true Or not. I doubt it honestly. But in any case, I don't blame her. My sister is like our parents. Greedy, money-hungry, and selfish people. Edit. I'll be turning off notifications and stop responding to responses because it's absolutely wrecking my phone's battery. I just wanted to clear up a few things here first, as I've seen them often in responses. 1. My mum is not at all considered a part of the family. She has no part in the will, so she can't give my sister shit. 2. No, I don't live a lavish lifestyle just because my grandparents are wealthy. They still believe in hard work, and my grandma doesn't throw money around for just anything. She'll help pay for schooling. Sometimes small things like rent if we get an apartment. But aside from this, we have to work for everything we own. This money is in a trust fund that nobody can access until she dies. And, even then, it's linked, meaning it affects all of our accounts if someone withdraws, to encourage us to continue working and making our own way in life. We can withdraw money, but we have to pay it back, like a loan, and it diminishes the amount that will continue to pay back into our account as the years go on. This was done purposely because they didn't want us to be floaters who never worked a day in our lives. It was an encouragement to live for ourselves and make our own way in the world. 3. Yes, I will talk to my grandma about the $1 thing. I'm sure she knows what she's doing already. She's a smart woman.
I am suing because my son got second and not first. Okay, back in elementary school we had story competitions. Whoever wrote the best story won like a $100 Indigo gift card. Anyway, so there was this kid, let's name him Marcus, who always won every single competition ever. And he was a rich kid, coming to school in a BMW while the rest of us took the subway. So in 5th grade we had one of those story competitions, and the subject was hope. So Marcus wrote a speech about hope. Not a story, a speech. And still got second because the speech slapped. But it was that, a speech. And since he got second he started crying and screaming while throwing a fit. And his mother threatened to sue the school. She didn't. Then she started to scream at the kid who won first because she didn't deserve it, and was a little bitch, and tried to grab the gift card and medal out of her hand. The school called the police, and she was arrested. I'm not sure if she was charged though.
I spoke to the manager and he said it was okay. Well, let's call and find out. Backstory. A buddy of mine's family runs a small convenience store, bait and tackle shop in the US, and I help out every now and then since I work at a gas station. Like 98% of stores, the shop is currently operating on a one toilet paper towel item per family policy. My friend's dad, the owner, told me in person that no one is allowed to buy more than one per family. No ifs, ands, or buts. Cue the scene. Me, ed, entitled Dad, aka embarrassed kid, SO, store owner. I'm waiting out the last half hour of when I said I'd help run the store on my own. When ed and ek walk in, decked out in fishing gear. Ed grabs a packet of worms, some sodas, ice, and snacks. As he passes by the toiletries section, he grabs 4 packages of toilet paper. I'm sorry sir, but store policy is currently only one per family. I called that out across the store, but Ed ignores me. He and EK select a few more things and walk up to the counter. EK is trying hard to not be seen, so I can tell he knows what's coming. Sir, unfortunately I'm only able to sell you one toilet paper package right now. ED, already getting angry. Well, why not? Due to the pandemic and shortage, our store is only allowing one TP item per family. Well, there's no sign back there. Yes there is, sir. There's a sign every 6 feet around the store, and at the register, listing what items are being limited. Oh well, I know the owner, and he says it's okay for me to buy as many as I want from here. EK has now retreated to the door, clearly wanting to leave, and not be here. You spoke to the owner. Getting irritated now. Yes, I did. Now are you going to ring me up, or what? The owner specifically said that you could buy however much you wanted? Yes. Can you please hurry it up? I want to be on the lake soon. Sir, I know the manager didn't say anything to you, because I'd have known about it. Are you calling me a liar? I'm reporting you to the owner the next time I talk to him. Pulls out phone. How about now? What? Calling owner, and putting phone on speaker. Let's call him right now. If he says it's okay, I'll ring you up, and apologize. Before ED can say anything, SO picks up. SO, hey what's up? Nothing much. I have ED here, and he says you told him he could ignore store policy on TP. SO, can I have your name so I know who I told? ED's face breaks out in hope, thinking he's bluffed his way through this, and gives his name. SO, I don't know who the hell you are, or what the fuck you're talking about. I haven't told anyone that they could ignore store policy by purchasing more than one. You are possibly depriving others that may desperately need the TP. And if you're shitting so much that you need more than one package, I would seriously suggest you consult a doctor, not just buy more TP. If you can't follow store policy like every other customer that's come in, then you can leave. SO hangs up. ED has his mouth open in shock, while EK is looking like all major holidays and his birthday are happening today. ED shuts his mouth, stands in front of the register for a few seconds, shouts a final fuck you, and storms out of the store, leaving all his items at the counter. TLDR, ED tries to bluff his way into bypassing store policy, so I call SO to call him on it. SO calls him out on being entitled. Edit. Slight punctuation change. And thank you for the award, kind sir.
Like and subscribe for more tremendous videos.